My name is Fidel Matinini. I'm the registered manager at St David's and St Christopher's in Ascot. We have two care homes. One is a residential home with 17 beds. It is still registered for 25, but they're both old buildings, grade 2 listed for the pain and grief of working in the industry. The nursing home was built in 1862, and the nuns that were in it originally were the nuns who'd been in the Crimea with Florence Nightingale. So it has delivered care for a very, very long time, and I feel really passionate about the history that goes with it and very proud to work in that environment. And of course, there's no nuns anymore, so it's been left to us. But of course, we're left with a very old building that was knocked about in the 70s and made into a horrendous mess, and is not really fit for purpose. And despite all of that, we have worked for the last 25 years. I came to work, I'm a nurse, I came to work in elderly care by default, really. I grew up in rural Ireland, where we always had older people on the road, and we always looked after them. My mum was a psychiatric nurse, and it was just a very natural thing to do in a time when we had no phones or anything like that. So it was always my fallback place to when I was nursing to go to older people. And I came to work in a nursing home intending to stay 3 months and go home for Christmas and never come back again. And here I still am. I met my husband there, and together he was new to the business. He'd grown up with the business, but he'd been working as an accountant in London, and his next posting was a directorship in Singapore with Guinness. And he gave it all up to go and work with his family and sort it all out, and found that the reality was very different from what he had been told it might be. So with him and his parents, we fought tooth and nail to keep the business going, and then have knocked rooms together to make 3 rooms become 2, to make them en suite, to make them nicer, to make them more marketable. And we've been lucky enough to achieve outstanding. We've got outstanding in all categories in each of our settings, so residential nursing and domiciliary care, and our nursing home is overall outstanding as well. But for my sins, I'm also involved in the Berkshire Care Association, which is how I know Patricia, and I've become a bit of a loudmouth about things that most people don't like saying because the world is politically incorrect. So please interrupt me and ask me any questions that you want. I've got no problems with that, or you can leave it till the end, but I can't believe that it's that interesting that you need to ask me questions at the end. So, as you know, CQC are our regulator, and they look at safe, caring, effective, responsive and well-led, or SCREW is the easy way to remember it if you can never remember it. I actually don't see CQC as the enemy at all. I see them as being people who are doing their job in the same way as we do, and they set out the regulations. They have to try and be clear in them and clearly worded. They don't intend to be vague. They are generally speaking fair. I don't think they're always right, but I do think they try to be fair and they try to take the right approach. And it is up to us to prove to them that what we are doing is the right thing by the service users we look after, the sector, etc., 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 not the other way around. There's little point in relying on central government or any government organisation. I don't know if you heard the police, to my mind, whinging this morning on the radio about their lack of pay and their lack of structure and their lack of standards and everything. I think, come and work in our industry, love, and you'll see what it's really like. It is not up to them to change the sector. It is up to people within the sector to change it. There is a very poor perception of care. I think it is getting slightly better, but I am a little bit sick and tired of seeing everything on TV apart from elderly care. So you see A&E, you see GP surgeries, you see children, and those, the programme at the moment about 4-year-olds in a care home. I'd love to work in a care home like that. It would be so easy. That's not a care home, that's a sheltered housing unit. That's a place where people live, where they get themselves out into the community. Most of those people do not need care, and if they do, it's certainly not the sort of care that we're used to delivering every day, whether it's in an LD setting, a domiciliary care, or an elderly care home. So I think the biggest thing that's missing in care is leadership. The one thing that if you're going to be safe, caring, effective and responsive, if you are not well led, you will not achieve any of those things. And I think it's the one thing that CQC don't focus on enough. It should be the first thing they focus on, not the last. Because if you don't have that strong leadership, you will not have anything. And that strong leadership doesn't have to be somebody who's bulshy and loud like me or Patricia. you know, people can be very assertive by being very quiet and very gentle, but very determined and very knowledgeable and well-read, interested in the sector and know what they're talking about. But you do have to be well-led. If you are not going to be a strong leader, and by that I mean leading from the front, as in, you know, pushing forward what needs to be done, the right thing, but also from the back. Don't expect other people to do anything you're not going to do. If the toilet needs cleaning, jolly well clean it. If somebody's ringing the bell, answer the bell. The phone needs ringing, answer the phone. There's paper on the floor, pick it up. By the same token, bring other people with you and show them how to do it. There's little point in you know, doing it all the time yourself and not showing other people what needs to be done. So you become very good at nagging. And you'd be very good at repeating yourself day in, day out. And actually, that never changes. The fundamentals of care never, ever change, no matter where you work, whether it's in a hospital setting or anywhere else. You know, everything, the little things, you know, I'm pretty sure that if I said laundry to all of you, you'll go, yep. Cleaning stand, yep. People answering bells, yep. Turning up on time, yep. The way that they serve tea, the way that they don't serve tea, the way that they speak to people, the corridor conversations. All of these things are familiar to us because they're things that impact upon the sector negatively, quickly, easily. And it's the image that we are left with, or if it was being filmed, that is easily misinterpreted or left behind. Smells are another thing. So leaders need strength. They need strength of character. They need strength within themselves. Frankly, you need to be made of steel. But you also have to have a soft touch. So you have to be strong, but you also have to be pleasant. You have to be willing, but you have to be accepting. But ultimately, you have to be strong. You have to make decisions about things that are sometimes hard. And sometimes that means even things like, you know, firing family members. You know, sister, brother, cousin, daughter, it doesn't matter. You don't do the job, that's it, love, you're out. You know, there's no place for complacency within this job. You absolutely have to have strength. My husband tells everybody it's not true that I fire somebody once a month to remind them that I will do it. It's really not true, I don't. In fact, I haven't fired anybody for a long time now. But I have no hesitancy in dismissing somebody. And yes, all of the lawyers, and I'm sure the ones in the room will tell you, oh no, you can't do that, there's employment law and all that sort of thing. Your foremost job is to protect your residents, to safeguard their well-being. That's the first job. Employment law comes a very long way down the line after that. And people are fearful of employment law, but they're not fearful of safeguarding. They're not fearful of whistleblowing. They're not fearful of doing the right thing by our residents. You do the right thing, everything else will follow. The right moral thing and the right outcome for your residents, everything of your clients, whatever you call them in your environment, everything else will change. Everything else will happen. But you also have to be strong enough to instigate change. And often those changes are very small. One of the things I'm working at the moment is laundry. I'm probably going to go on about this a lot because it's eating me in the back of my mind at the moment in my own work. You know, we have continuous complaints. They're not even complaints. They're comments about that the care is really good and the staff are really nice and the food is excellent and mum or dad's allowed to do what they want to do and I don't know how you cope with them when it's so difficult, but the laundry's a bit of a mess. And it's almost like a, you know, it's a compromise. That's not good enough. When I've heard it once, you know, that's terrible. When I've heard it twice, shame on me. When I've heard it 3 times, that's enough. And I've heard it 10 times. It's bad. It's really bad. So we've got to change the way that we work. There's no more money in the system. You know, we've kept the same staffing levels as we've adjusted rooms and stuff like that. So the staff are, you know, comfortably off. We're lucky enough to have student nurses at the moment, so they tell the staff how lucky they are in comparison to what they get in the wards and other places. And that brings its benefits, but it also brings new eyes, new ears, new noses, new opportunities, new staff potential, new manager potential for the future into our work by having people like that there. But you have to listen to those people too, and you have to have strength to hear what they have to say. But you don't have to like it, but you do have to respect it and accept it. So it's really important. You do have to listen, and you have to hear, and you have to respond. You don't have to respond the way people want you to respond, but if you're not going to make a difference, it's not going to do anything different. Determination is a really hard word because you have to see things through. It can't just be, I want this to happen today, and you say it and you expect it to be done. You have to follow it up. You have to nag. If you want the night staff to do it, you need to go and see the night staff. You need to listen to them. You need to, sometimes listen and be nice. Sometimes listen and say, no, absolutely not. Being able to say an unqualified no without saying, can I have tomorrow off? No. I don't need to tell you why you can't have tomorrow off. You're rotated to work. That's it. I do not need to tell you. It is a sign of adulthood to be able to say an unqualified no. There is a time and a place to make sure that people understand things. Some things are just no. Can I have an extra cigarette break? No, you cannot. Can I have an extra coffee break? No, you can't. Can you walk around the house with a cup of coffee? No, it's not your house. It's the resident's home. It's not yours. If you're running this organisation for the benefit of the residents, it is them that come first, not the staff. Yes, the staff are your biggest asset and they're really important, but they do have to be professional. And that takes determination. And that's about the way people look, the clothes that they wear, how clean their shoes are, the way that they speak, the attitude that they take, the way they answer the phone, the way they document, the attitude that they take. I went to a care home recently, really, really, really well respected care home that we both know very, very well, really good long-term owners, managers. 8 of the staff were outside having a cigarette. Guess how many staff were on duty? 10, including the chef and the cleaners. That's not acceptable. And not only that, you're driving in the front gate and they're all standing there in your face having a cigarette. There is a little bit of professional courtesy and decorum that we just need to have. I don't care if people smoke. I love having a cigarette when I have a drink. But, that doesn't mean that I can do that and expect people to then welcome me as a professional. If I want to be welcomed as a professional, I have to behave in a professional manner, and that includes everybody. And that takes determination and leadership to make that happen. It's not a case of you can't smoke, it's just a case of being discreet. And if you are having cigarettes, what are you going to do about coming back in again? So have the staff got chewing gum? Not that I particularly want them chewing gum, but something that's going to freshen their breath, some deodorant or something that's going to be sprayed over them so that they're not going to somebody who's very poorly, stinking of cigarettes, that's making them feel extra sick. It's just, if you went to your GP and that's what you were finding, I think you might think about changing, So it's the same sort of approach, but you do need to be determined to see things through. If you start talking about it, you've got to follow it through, because the second you don't follow it through, you're showing weakness. And believe you me, staff they'll find any which way they can. Not intentionally, it's just a human trait. We don't have to like the boss. In fact, by the nature of the fact that they're the boss, you tend to not be liked. But you will be respected when you show strength and determination and follow it through for the benefit of the residents. But equally, you're still fair. If you've just had a traumatic death and the staff need a cigarette break, send them out in halves. 4 and 4, whatever way it might be. But that's on an odd occasion, not on every day. In usual terms, you'd split them into 3s or 4s and have different breaks, stagger the breaks and have them at different times. Common sense sort of stuff. You do have to be tolerant. You don't have to like them all, but you do have to respect them. And you have to bring them with you. And that's about being fair. You do have to put up with the people that you don't like. But, you have to be aware of not picking on the people that you don't like because they irritate you. And it's very easy to do, isn't it? You're nodding, I can see you know what I mean. But you do have to be tolerant. And you also have to be tolerant of the sector. You have to tolerate the fact that there are CQC regulations that you don't agree with. You do have to tolerate things like fire regulations. You do have to tolerate all those sorts of things. But you equally have to think about ways of getting around them, and I'm going to come back to that in a minute, that might, it doesn't mean that you can't. So at the moment, there are 2 fire exits out of this room, one there and one there. Okay, if this isn't a listed building, could we think about putting a fire door over there? So now we've got a different way to get out into the garden that's actually much easier for our clients, that's much easier for our staff, that's much more accessible to reality, etc., etc. So you have to be tolerant, but you have to think about ways that you can change things too. You have to get involved, whether it's with your staff, your residents, every aspect of what you do. If you don't think any aspect of this is not your job, you're in the wrong job. Every bit of it, whether it's the cleaners, the products that are coming into the home, the price of the products that are coming into the organisation, the recruitment, the retention, the documentation, how people answer the phone, like I've already said, the tea that you serve, how it's served. Is it the right sort of tea? Is there choices? Do we have the same choices as we have this morning? All those sorts of things. Is it how you would want it to be? But equally, you need to get involved in the wider community in things like, I say the Care Association because that's my go-to place and it's easy, but it's a network. I think we learn far more from each other than we do to go on any course anywhere. Honestly, I think you'll probably, I don't mean any disrespect to Fulcrum, but I think you'll learn more from each other today, you know, as a group, than you will learn from any of the presentations or slides that we put up. That networking is really important. Get involved with your CCG and your local authority. Yes, it's bloody painful, frankly. It's irritating. You sit in boardrooms of meetings like this that go on and on and on and on and on, and you sit with people who all they ever seem to do is go to a meeting. I don't know what job they do except go to a meeting, you know? And it's very irritating. But you learn an awful lot, and you take with you information that you think, aha, and it puts you ahead of the game. It puts you into the point where you know the language, you understand what the CCG is. So when it's changed from PCT to CCG or whatever the next new word's going to be, you understand what that is. You know what the ICS is, the Integrated Care Systems. You understand all of those processes and what it's about. Being ahead of the game is really, really, really important. Knowing what the next big thing is. So the enhanced care and care homes programs, or any of those other things. You know, in domiciliary care, the world is going to have to change, isn't it? We can't continue the way we have been. You know, if you want the district nurse or the health visitor or the, you know, community midwife, community CPN, they don't come at a time that they tell you what time, and then it's a safeguarding when they're 3 minutes late. They tell you, I'll be there in the morning, if you're lucky, or I'll be there in the afternoon. And yet, somehow, in care, we think we should pay quarter of the price for that and expect a Rolls-Royce service. Well, you don't get, you know, a Rolls-Royce for the price of a Skoda. You don't get it. And the world is going to have to get real about that. And that includes in LD and elderly care as well. If you want to get care done, you've got to pay for it, and it's got to be at the right price that meets the needs of the service users that you are looking after. And that includes the staff. You know, the staff are paid, by my mind, a pittance, and that includes us, for what we do. And I think if we were a male-dominated industry, it would not happen like that. And I dare say in your industry, people are paid an awful lot more than they are paid in care, yet you still want to invest in it because you see it as being, you know, a good way of making money, and it is. But if you know, making money in care is hard work. Profit margins are about 10%. By the time you reinvest that back into your carpets and your curtains and stuff like that, it ain't an awful lot of money left. So it may look on paper like you've made a lot of profit, but the reality behind that profit is that if you're reinvesting that back in again, you're not likely to be driving a Rolls Royce. You know, and if you are, it's a very old one. But you do need to get involved in every aspect. You need to taste the food. You need to see what's coming back on the plates. You need to see when people are losing weight and why that is. Is that because that person is getting poorly, or is that because the food isn't of good enough quality? Or is that because the staff aren't serving it properly? Or is that because the manner of it is like, there's your tea, Tricia? You know, the approach that you take is really important. Every aspect of that organisation is part of your work. Your staff are your biggest asset, but they are the biggest risk as well. Most of them are wonderful. Most people do not come to work every day to do a bad job. They come to work to do the very best job they can. They've learned bad habits. They've worked with bad people. They've got fed up. They've got irritated. They've learned to take shortcuts and nobody's pulled them up. They don't feel respected. They don't feel valued. But if you make them feel all of those things, and sometimes that's just asking, how are you today? How's your daughter after last night? Do you need to take the morning off and come in this afternoon? You know, it's the little things. Remembering their birthday. It might just be a birthday card. It might just be a bar of chocolate. It might be a bacon sandwich break time, you know? Those things matter. And the cleaner and the candlestick maker and the gardener, are just as important as you are every single day of the week. Frankly, I'd say that the care staff can cook, clean, do the medication, order food in, answer the phone, deal with CQC, deal with the local authority safeguarding team and everything else besides, where actually, and I dread to say this as nurses we can be done without because the care staff can do all of that. Frankly, the chef can be done without because the care staff can cook. The cleaner can be done without because the care staff can clean. They are the backbone of the care industry, and they are almost the least respected. You know, more often than not, the maintenance team get paid more. Why? Because they're men, and because they wouldn't. I don't mean that disrespectfully, I really don't, but that is just a fact. We do not appreciate the work that staff do, and most of it is not about pay, but some of it is. But we can make it better by the way that we approach staff, by the way that we treat staff, by listening to them, and absolutely by being firm and saying no and being fair and being equal. But if you're going to say no to me when I ask for tomorrow off, that means saying no to everybody else when they ask for tomorrow off as well. So you've got to be fair and equal across the patch, or recognise that I'm giving Patricia off today because she's worked every day for the last 5 weeks and has helped me out in every time that's been needed, whereas somebody else has, done no extra shifts, and if you ask them to work tomorrow to cover for Patricia, they want double time for it. Well, actually, I'm probably not inclined to do that unless I'm absolutely desperate. But you've got to be fair. But bringing your staff with you, knowing not just what they have to do, but why they need to do it. If you don't know why, they're not going to bother, and they will take shortcuts. If they know and understand why, they're much more likely to get involved. And they'll do it the way you want them to do it too. And they ask, the attitude, the skills and the knowledge. If they don't, you can train skills and knowledge. You cannot train attitude. Attitude is something you are given. It is something that is part of you. It is something where you've got an interest in the people, the job that you do. It's not just about, the approach that you take and how you slam things down or how you move things around. It's the way you speak to people. It's the interest that you take. It's the kindness or the firmness that you take in a particular situation. It really matters, and you can't buy it. It's really not something you can buy. But equally, if you don't ask people what they think, you're never going to get their buy-in. People being heard, staff, residents, families, ask people what they think. Is the food good enough? What's the service like? And, people will tell you to your face one thing and say another thing behind your back. It's human nature, particularly in the southeast of England, where it's really conservative. Go up north, I don't think it's as bad. Go to where I come from in Ireland, believe me, everybody tells you as it is. But honestly, in the southeast of England, people are really conservative. And they have this fear of speaking out. So you need to ask it in different ways. You need to ask it anonymously. You need to ask it up front. You need to ask it in a meeting. You need to address it. You need to bring it up in different ways. So saying, actually something happened the other day that I want to share with you. My son goes to a school. My three children have gone to 3 different schools. And my middle son's school is a Quaker school, and it has honesty above all else as its principles. Now, it's a very small school. It's only got 350 pupils, which in the southeast of England is very small. Whereas the other 2 go to a very big secondary school. The Quaker school sent out an email to tell you that there have been students caught at school smoking dope and they've been expelled. They don't name and shame, but they tell you. I know that has happened in the other school. You never hear a word about it. The difference is that the Quaker school have honesty above all else, and they stick to their values, and they tell you things. They'll say things like, we've heard that there's a bad batch of drugs going around the area. We just want you to know so that if your children are going out, that you're hearing about this. And it's the same thing in our care establishments. We're very good at sort of trying to hide things behind closed doors and keep things secret and stuff like that, instead of sharing those experiences and learning from them. It's one of the issues Patricia and I bring up regularly about safeguarding. All safeguarding happens, and you hear about the Winterbourne cases. You don't hear about the little ones that are knocking on your doorstep every day, the ones that put you in fear, the ones that stop you from sleeping, the ones that make you bite your nails and drink a bottle of Jameson every night, You don't hear about them. because nobody learns from them, because they don't get to being significant adult reviews, SARs, yeah? They don't get to be those. But we need to learn from them by sharing those things with each other and by sharing them with our staff, with our residents, with our clients, with our relatives, and say, what could we have done to prevent this? And deal with it when it's this big. If you deal with it when it's small, it doesn't become to be big. You know, there's lots of things that happen that are uncomfortable, but we have to address them. And I promise you, if you address them when they're small, it may be painful, but you'll learn from it, and you don't let it get as big the next time round. You really need to like your job. If you want to be even good, never mind outstanding. And outstanding, honestly, there's only, you know, it's easier to get to the top than it is to stay at it. If you get to the top of Everest, you can't stay there. Even if you bring oxygen with you, you're going to run out. And if you haven't brought oxygen with you, you're still going to run out. So you need to get back down again. The only way from the top is either staying there or coming back down again. And a lot of people go up, down, up, down, up, down. And, you know, I'm lucky enough to be outstanding. Believe you me, we are far from perfect. And there's many days when we are very far from outstanding, to the point that it's embarrassing. But the point is that we're not afraid to address it. And I still do like my job. I hate the politics, the external politics, the CCG and the local authority and the safeguarding and the arguing and the bickering and the nonsense, frankly, and I'd like to say a much ruder word than that, you know, that goes on every day. That's really irritating. But what motivates me to get out of bed in the morning, and what motivates you to get out of bed in the morning? My residents need me. And if I'm not there, who's going to do it? And that member of staff worked, she's done, you know, 48 hours virtually on the trot without a break, and she's gone home for 5 hours to have a sleep, or she's even slept in or whatever. It's like, yeah, how dare I complain? And up you get, and you go in, and something good happens, and you feel better in yourself. Or something bad happens, and you think, God, I'm glad I'm here. You know? Or you ring Patricia and say, I need to go for a drink tonight, or whatever it might be. But, you know, if you don't ultimately like your job, and believe me, there's days when I hate it too. There's days when I get under the duvet and I don't want to get up. And my husband phones me and I ignore it. And Patricia phones me and I ignore it. And I put it on silent, or I press, I can't talk right now, and you pretend you're in a meeting. That happens to everybody, honestly, and it's okay. But you know what? Your sixth sense, your attitude kicks in that you do that on a day when it's okay to do that. But as soon as CQC walk in the door of safeguarding, you can get up and put that smile in your face and be professional and be there with the right attitude on. But ultimately, like your job. If you don't like it, it's never, ever going to work. And if you don't like it, get out. Honestly, you can do a job working in Tesco's. You know, you'll still get paid. You know, it doesn't matter what the job is. But this job, you have to like. You really do. So you've got to respect. You don't have to like all of them, but you do have to respect your clients, the families, the staff, and the MDT. I often have a very strong dislike for some of the multidisciplinary team that I meet, particularly at the moment CPNs, who seem to be crappier than crap. I don't know how they've stayed in their job or where they've come from, but sometimes I want to slap them and say, I actually said to a GP one day, a long time ago, do you actually remember why you became a doctor? Because you've forgotten how to like the clients you look after. You know, if you're not going to do the right thing by them, please don't come into my organisation and tell me that when I'm looking after them 24 hours a day, what the right thing to do is. And this is the first time you've ever met them. You know, you've met them for 3 minutes and you're telling me all the things that's wrong. How dare you? I'm the one looking after them. Like them. You don't have to love them, but you do have to like the clients that you look after. So listen to them. Have meetings with them regularly. 2 monthly, 3 monthly, daily, depending on the situation. Listen to what they have to say. Often, when you cut through, you know, the stuff that they're actually talking about, that's a big deal. What they want underneath it all is to be heard. That's what most people want. And then challenge that back with the multidisciplinary team. And don't just let them walk all over you and tell you what to do. Everybody thinks that they know better than you do about your clients that you look after. They don't. You do. Give of yourself. You do need to get out of your ivory tower. If you're finding yourself being on a computer all day long, I spent a month really, 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 really stressed until a friend of my husband's, who's a business coach, which I always thought was a load of nonsense, said to me one day, what is it that you do? And I told him about my day-to-day job, you know, staff, you know, typical day in care, all the stuff that happens. And he was like, really? I know CEOs in like places like Google and banking and places like that can't do that. And I'm like, really? And he's like, yeah. And he said, what's the worst part of your job? I said, emails. I hate emails. Anything to do with my computer, I hate. It's got to the point where actually the thought of using my laptop makes me feel sick. And he said, oh, there's conferences around the world about this. And I'm like, you're joking. And no. People hide behind emails. Everyone like, oh my God, I've been thinking this for years. There are real things that people have. Their whole days, like we do about care, that they have about emails and how to handle them better. The best thing I ever did, put an automatic response in my email saying, if you want to talk to me, phone me. Guess how many people phone me? 1. Very few. Honestly, people hide behind emails all the time, and then you get involved in the bitchiness, frankly, for want of a better word. And he said, she said, that they said, and I can't make this meeting. And you're reading all this, and you're thinking, when's the meeting? Just put that in my diary. That's all I need to know. The rest of it's kind of irrelevant. How much of it is impacting upon my business? How much of it is affecting my residents? How much of it is affecting my reputation and making me better at my job? None of it? Then I'm not interested. You know, so get involved, give of yourself, but remember, don't let it take over your life. Know your stuff, be fully informed. Don't say, Patricia told me. That's not a good enough reason. Know what you're talking about. Don't be afraid to challenge CQC, safeguarding, and everybody else. They are not the boss. If you are the registered manager, you are the boss, not them. So make sure that you do actually know your stuff and don't be afraid to challenge them. They are not perfect in any way, and frankly, it gives them faith that you have the strength to be assertive, that you know what you're talking about, that you're capable. Document, document, document. If it isn't written down, it didn't happen. Frankly, it can be on the back of a fag packet. It doesn't matter. Back of a Post-it note, anywhere. It really doesn't matter. But have it written down somewhere. You're all writing notes in the moment. Those notebooks are really handy because you can go back through them on dates, and remember what's been written down. As I said before, if you think it's not part of your job, you're in the wrong job. But equally, blame, which there is an awful lot of it in our sector, is simply about not accepting responsibility. You shouldn't have let that patient fall. Really? What should I have let them do then? Climb the wall? Jump out the window? Not walk with their shoes on? How could I have stopped them from falling? Put super glue on their bum? You can't stop people from falling, so you need to be realistic. But don't let other people blame you, but equally don't blame other people. Accept responsibility for the things you have and haven't done yourself. If you ignore it, you are condoning it. You're saying, you continue doing that, love, because it ain't my problem and I'm not going to do anything about it. So whether it's the staff having a cigarette or them not wearing the correct uniform or the attitude that's not being done or the CQC telling you that something isn't right, one of the things they're really good at is covert medication, yeah? It hasn't been reviewed. Okay, you need to decide how often it needs to be reviewed. In some cases, it's daily, isn't it, depending on the client. In other cases, it's monthly. In other cases, it might be 6 weekly. It doesn't really matter. But it shouldn't be yearly. That's not enough for something that's so... If somebody's shoving medication down into you that you do not want for whatever reason, because you don't like the taste of it or because you disagree with it or whatever it might be, somebody needs to be reviewing that. That's right and proper. Know your stuff, but make sure that it does actually happen. But if you're ignoring those things not being done, you are condoning it. So whether it's that the cleaner didn't clean something properly or the attitude that somebody takes, if you ignore it, you condone it. Don't do that. It's really dangerous. Everybody thinks they're too small to change the world, but look what a mosquito can do. I didn't start off being outstanding. Our care homes were dreadful. There were mushrooms growing out of the floor in some of the rooms. There were rooms that the walls were crumbling in, and some outside they still are in parts. There was windows that were broken. There was windows that didn't close properly. There were drafts. There was carpet. I remember my husband and I going to buy, and he wasn't my husband at the time, going to buy the cheapest carpet we could, and we found carpet at $1.99 a square metre. It was dreadful stuff, but it made the difference in making it look nicer for a little while at least. But we worked really hard and do things in small stages and achieve it and get it embedded and make a difference and move on. You can't change the world overnight, but small steps and being brave will get you there. And don't forget, someday this could be us. You do make a difference, a really big difference, and care needs to be celebrated. And if it was you, what would you want for you? Because actually, I don't want a tiny little room. It's not about the size of the room, to be honest, but I do think that care needs to move into a world where everybody does have the right to have an ensuite room. Everybody has the type of decor that is available in here with clean carpets, clean walls, touchable surfaces that we're all happy to eat and drink from. If you find staff that are refusing to drink from residents' cups or wouldn't use the residents' communal toilet, then there's something not right in that environment. One of the things I do at staff training is to give out, plastic mugs. And so I give people different things. So one person gets a cup and a saucer, one person gets a staff mug, one person gets a beaker with a lid in it, somebody else gets a plastic mug and so on like that. And the staff go, I'm not drinking out of that. Well, why do you expect other people to then? What's the difference? And if the people who pick it up and drink from it go, actually it's not as bad as I thought, and you think, okay, now we're onto something, because actually they're really light and they're easier for people. Anyway, that's it. Sorry, I didn't mean to be.
Thank you.
I start getting passionate.
Thank you, Fidelma. Have you got any questions around the table?
Would Fidelma have some time to answer?
Sure.
So specific question. You talk about the value of essentially nagging. And the question I always have in my mind is how do you strike the balance between nagging but also maintaining the goodwill of your team? Because I find that if you have high expectations and high standards, that can just appear to be. Where do you draw the line?
Well, my house is nowhere near as tidy as my care home is, but personally, I think this is just my approach. That if I'm going to nag people, I also have to go and do the job. So if I go and do the job myself, I find that actually, what the problem is here is that equipment isn't working properly, or that the product that we're using isn't good enough. So like, for example, the washing powder, for example, or that the washing machine hasn't been turned on to the right setting, or the tumble dryer is on too hot. They're always really simple things, but they're like, okay, that's why that's not happening properly. Or the trolley that you put the stuff on, everything falls off it because it's not big enough, or whatever it might be, it doesn't fit in the lift. They're usually things like that. But equally, to go and talk to people directly. So if I'm asking, I will nag, and I can shout and stamp my feet. But if I ask the rest of the team to do that, they can sometimes come across as being, a little bit mean to other people, especially when they get tired and narky, and they don't necessarily have the same ownership of the team as you do. So I find myself, and I'm not for 1 second proposing that everybody else works like I do. I probably am a bit of a workaholic, but I will go in and see the night staff. I will go in and see the evening staff. I will go in and see the morning staff. I've kind of learned to adjust my hours in the last sort of 5 years and stuff. I don't find that between 7:30 and 12 is the problem. I find between 5 p.m. and 9 a.m. is where the most problems are. So I tend to go in just before lunchtime and stay later rather than going in early, unless I have to go in early for something specific that's on. So I tend to work at home in the mornings and just, if I have to get through those bloody emails or anything like that. So to try and find that balance, I try to meet the staff directly about things that I want to change and influence key people. So if I can get, for example, all of the people in this room on board, and I'm absolutely convinced that they're going to do it the way that I want it done and with the attitude that we want it done, I also write it up. So I spent yesterday, again, going back to laundry, writing a whole document about laundry and how and why and how it would work on the morning shift and how it would work on the afternoon shift and how it would work on the night shift and when things were to be done and not to be done and all of that sort of stuff, and put it into colours and all sorts of stuff like that to try and get the message across. But yeah, there is a fine balance between that. But there's equally, to be honest, there's always going to be a couple of staff, intentionally or unintentionally, who sabotage things, whether it's through accident or otherwise, and it's kind of going to them and saying, Patricia, what is it that's the problem with this? Why are you not getting this? And it's kind of like, oh, actually, you suddenly realise that she's dyslexic. So, and you're like, okay, right, should have realised that before now, shouldn't I? And you find something that, most people aren't bad, and then you go, horses for courses. Don't put somebody on laundry who needs to be reading labels who is dyslexic because they're not able, that type of dyslexia, that isn't able to cope with that particular job. Equally, don't put somebody in the kitchen who's terrified of the chef, but that sort of thing.
And have you done any work with your staff? So you talked about the difficulty of getting staff to make requests in a way which they can be heard effectively. You know, you're tired, you're hungry, and these requests come across in an aggressive way. Have you done any work with the staff about how to make requests in a way that can be heard?
We've done lots and lots and lots of communication. It's largely been about attitudes rather than that sort of stuff specifically, but we have done lots of work around communication, and one of the things that we've done, and it's one of the things that I found hugely beneficial, is at the end of each shift we take 15 minutes before the end of each shift to say what was good, what wasn't so good, and what could be better every single day. So, and that will be things like, sometimes it turns into an argy-bargy argument and you have to go, right, enough, that's stop, we're not here to bitch. And then other times it's kind of like oh, I really enjoyed working with somebody this morning, or I found that, you know, upstairs is really heavy today, and, you know, this Mrs. Jones isn't doing this, and I didn't get my break on time, and when I got into the kitchen there was no hot water left, and that chef makes me really upset, and whatever, and it'll come out in those sorts of ways. Okay, do you want me to deal with that, or do you want to deal with that? Some certain staff we definitely have picked up on that they have a way of communicating that really rubs people up the wrong way. So we've done some specific work with them around that, but without trying to pick on them, we've tried to generalize it and sort of get everybody, because it, you know, everybody can learn from bad habits, as well as from good things. So,
aligned to what Fidel has been saying about working with staff, we've used what we would say a coaching approach. What is it you like? What is it you don't like? What is it you could do better on the things that you don't like? And we take that type of approach sometimes during handovers. You set a time sometimes monthly, on a monthly basis. We have what we will call, you just come into work, surprise them, not coerce them, but surprise them with a pack of donuts, for example. It's a treat. They feel appreciated. Oh, you thought about us today. Wow. Even though sometimes you call them all in the office and you say, okay, I need you all around, just need to do that. Well, this is to say thank you for the hard work for the last few days. We've had a lot of people phoning off sick. You've covered shift amongst yourself. This is for this shift and for any other shift that's coming through. But thank you for your hard work. So it's those little things that you do to turn around. I mean, through Fulcrum, we go into care homes, and there's a massive disconnect between management and staff, a massive one. They don't even know, some of them, that X is married and has children and has lost the mother-in-law for the last 6 months, and that's why she's depressed and that's why she can't work. It's amazing, but sometimes distressing for us when you're going in and you find the hard work that's happening on the floor. They're really working hard. They really want to go up the ladder, or they really want to go on that type of training, but they don't feel heard.
yeah. One of the things that happened the other night, we've started our rotas to be totally flexi, so that we've got staff who start at 6:30, then others who start at 7:30, then some who start at 9, then some who finish at 2, some who stay till 6, some who stay till 10, some who stay till 11, people who come in at 7:30 at night, you know, so that we have these, that it goes like this, rather than, we don't have start-stop times, because that's just not how people's lives work, as in residence. So we try to keep it to the needs of the house. But we've had a massive job going on in our dining room, and as a listed building, you can imagine how painful that is. And we've intentionally kept some rooms empty, because it's just too difficult logistically to manage it with, for the staff. And because of that, the staff who work until 10 have had a lot more free time in the evening times. So some of them have said, can I go home early? Happy days. But some of the nurses have gone, no, you can't. Why? Because they don't want to be short-staffed. They're not short-staffed, they're fully staffed. They've got 6 empty beds, and their client needs a less and all the rest of it. So they started making them do extra turns on people at night, so that their turn before this, I only heard this last night, and I went, what are you talking about? That is purely about staff convenience. That is not about resident need. That is not about residents' rest. If those people are going to bed early as in 7, 8 o'clock at night, you turning them, again, at 9:45. Imagine somebody, you've just got into a nice sleep and you're just beginning to relax and so on like that, and somebody's coming in and disturbing you, and then they're coming back and disturbing you again at 12 o'clock just because that's the routine. And I really got cross about this, and it really upset me, ate me, about how dare you think that that's okay without checking that out and having that conversation and seeing if that was right for one particular resident for one particular reason, that's a conversation we need to have. But don't you dare go around finding work to do and making things happen for your convenience. I've got no problem, people. We could use that time for training. We could use that time for all sorts of other things. It's not about staff pay at all. It is purely about the home being run for the benefit of the service users that are within it, not for the staff. And that's key. If you don't get that right, so the attitude of those nurses tells me something about the fact that they're all about them being in control rather than actually what's the right thing for our residents.